Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Let's talk about why you need to avoid certain financial mistakes when you're young. So guys, listen, I'm gonna talk really about like relationships as it pertains to women and having children from a financial perspective. So as it pertains to like avoiding the mistakes that come with that. So guys, listen, child support, alimony, or just paying for kids is very costly. And just understand, guys, when you're trying to build wealth when you're young or you're trying to get ahead, I'm not saying that you can't, have a family and really buckle down and get it together, but you have to be very sure if you are going to do that, if you're going to start popping out kids, right? And you trust this woman that you're with, right? You have to be very sure that you have a strong enough work ethic to be able to make money to support them, right? You cannot sit there and be like, hey man, because this is what a lot of guys do, right? A lot of like just clueless men, right? They'll sit there and they'll have, they'll be in a relationship and whatever, and they really love their woman, and they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna, have a bunch of kids with you and this and that, and we're gonna make it happen and da-da-da. But they're still working at McDonald's, right? They're still working at Publix, or they're still working, a job that doesn't pay, right? And they can really only afford themselves, and they have no plan to make more money, right? So I think you can do it if you know, like, hey, if you have the intention and the work ethic to make more money, I think you can absolutely make it happen. But I just think for the most part, a lot of guys, make mistakes in the sense that, they get into a relationship, they don't really, they don't really understand the role that their woman should have and that they should have. And then next thing you know, right, they have a kid, maybe one kid or two kids, maybe they're married and then they get divorced. Now they have child support, now they have alimony. Or maybe they're still together, but hey man, now maybe they had business ideas and they wanted to spend the money that they were saving on courses and everything else, but they moved in too fast, right? Or they had children too fast. That's gonna make you stressed, right? That's gonna make you frantic and fearful at times. So I think it's important that if you're going to have children and have your woman live with you, right? I think it's important that you understand that everything comes at a financial cost, right? Because I think a lot of people make impulsive men, specifically men, because we're driven by our sex drive in most cases, right? Most men aren't very logical when it comes to women, right? We just think with our dick, right? We make decisions that are impulsive, and then it ends up biting us in the ass when maybe the woman wasn't necessarily going to be a great caretaker as it pertains to you or your children. So guys, there's a lot of things you got to be careful of when it comes to dating, because no one will tell you this, but dating comes at a cost, right? And if you're not willing to pay that cost, if you're not willing to make more money, if you're not willing to sacrifice certain things, sacrifice friends, sacrifice time with or sacrifice like fun and recreation, then I don't think you're ready to have children and a family and be able to take care of one. Because like I said, if you're gonna sit there and watch TV and do this and do that and not make money and but sit there at the same time and say, hey baby, let's have another kid, like, bro, you're just making it, first off, you're making it harder on yourself, and you're making it hard on your children, because now they're not going to have great leadership. They're going to see that you and your wife or your girlfriend are stressed. Now your kids grow up in a stressful environment because there's always financial turmoil. And that, as a result, what does that lead to? That leads to more of the same thing. That leads to more chaos, more depression, more government handouts, right? I didn't even mention that, but that leads to now we got the welfare state. Now we got more food stamps, and hey, guess what? That's jacking up our taxes now for the middle class. So like I said, man, it's a financial, no matter how much we want to try to avoid money or try to like pretend like it's not important or pretend like it's just like, oh, like whatever, we'll make things happen. Like you have to make very logical, calculated risks. I'm not saying you can't make risks in life. I'm all for risk, but you got to do it with some degree of like logic. Like, hey, if this happens, this is my backup plan. So this is like a medium risk. Like, you don't want to just risk everything when you're like bottom of the barrel. You have no idea what you're doing, right? And here's another point too. I think a lot of us have children because of our two reasons. We don't want to be alone. We feel alone, so we want companion from, having children and a family and everything that comes with that, which is totally cool, right? No issue there. But another thing too is a lot of people just have kids because it's like, hey, that's just what I've seen growing up, right? That's just what you do, right? And I'm obviously, like, reproduction is ingrained in our hardwiring, so I'm not trying to say like, it's like a mystical thing, but at the same time, it's like, hey, just because XY, your parents had you at 18 doesn't mean you have to have your kid at 18. You got to understand too, right? And I'm speaking for present times. We live in a very different economy. We live in a very different world when it comes to money. So right now, if you're not financially sharp, or you're not like almost on your way, or you're not, hey, the resources aren't near, right? I don't think it's the best idea to have children or move in with your girl, right? At least for like a couple years, right? Till you can, you got to plan for these things. That's what I think. I really think it comes down to, like, if you're gonna, I think a lot of the financial mistake is when people just don't plan and they just like, all right, you're coming in, right? It's like, no, man, you have to fucking plan. Like, hey, babe, like, hey, I'm going to aim to make $30,000 more this year so I can move you in. Okay. And you follow through on the process as it pertains to making that much more money for the year so you can move her in. But, leaving it up to chance or hoping for it or just thinking like it'll work itself out. No, man. Like, you have to understand that you have to make decisions that, directly impact your financial situation, for better or for worse. And if you want to live with your woman or you want to have children, that's totally fine. But you have to plan for it, and you have to improve. You have to be constantly improving every day as a man, right? Especially when it comes to your finances. That's like number one. So, like I said, I think a lot of guys are just impulsive. They just do things out of the whim because it's like, hey, man, it's just, I like this girl and we're so in love and da-da-da. And hey, next thing you know, you guys are, you got 1, 2, 3 kids, but hey, you don't have any money, right? So now you're on food stamps. Now you're on welfare, right? Now you're jacking up taxes for everyone else who's working hard, right? So understand that, like I said, having kids at a young age and having them live with you and living with your girl and everything is a huge financial risk, especially if you don't plan for it. Like I said, I'm not against it, but you have to plan for it and you have to make things happen from a 6-month to a yearly basis. You gotta aim to make more money every 6 months to every year, right? That should be, I think every man should want to make more money every 6 months to a year. I think that's a very doable goal, even if it's just in small increments. I think that's very practical for a lot of guys, right? And I talk a lot on this channel about how to do that. But at the same time, don't make the risk of just, hey, we're just in love and, she's pressuring you to have kids and you just want to listen to her and please her. Next thing you know, you guys have no money at the end of the month, or you're about to go dip into your savings. And that's where the problems come, and that's when divorces happen. Now, hey, guess what? You're divorced, but hey, guess what? She's taking the kids now, so you got to pay alimony, child support. It's like, this is the problem. And like I said, I don't think a lot of men weigh the cost, right? Some men don't even know the cost. They don't even know child support and alimony exist, right? So I think it's important to be educated in this matter and make very rational decisions, right? Don't make impulsive or emotional decisions because you're impatient or because people are pressuring you or she's pressuring you, right? It's okay to want the goal, but you have to take calculated measures to make more money, as you progress. And I think you can make it happen if you approach it from that angle, right? And then you won't avoid all the mistakes. And guys, these mistakes that you make when you're young can affect you for decades, right? Like I was talking to one of my customers that comes in my work a lot, my workplace, and he was saying that he worked for like 15 years, right? Or he was in a relationship with his girl for like 15 years. He built her up to be a nurse, right? She thought she could do better than him or whatever. I think she was making a little bit more than him once she became a nurse. And then she divorced him. Now he's got child support and alimony with like 3 or 4 kids, right? So that's just but one example. But you got to be careful. You got to be careful. I'm not saying to not do it, but you got to be careful. And it's something that can really screw you over for decades and hurt your freedom, right? Like you guys don't want to be a slave to the system, right? Well, this is part of how to not be a slave to the system, right? So yeah, guys, that's it. That's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you are new to my channel, make sure to subscribe. If you guys have any questions, comments, leave them down below. And as always, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.